And so they just want to help with providing tools and inspiration to create brighter, safer, more visual streets and welcoming for residents and visitors. In this particular case, we're really kind of focusing on the residents of the neighborhood rather than visitors because of where it's located. So when people think about murals in Lancaster, they think about murals on walls, not necessarily murals in intersections. And this one also at Crystal and First Streets was done 2 years ago, and it was done in the center of the street as opposed to utilizing some of the vertical spaces. But what's unique about this type of mural is that it's a 5-point intersection, and it's utilized by pedestrians, vehicles, motorcycles, cars, and bicycles as well. So the intent for this installation is to create a traffic calming effect at that intersection so that people can proceed through the intersection without speeding or hurting anyone, basically. The point of the installation is that it only lasts about 6 to 9 months. It's a pilot demonstration. If at the end of that time the community wants to keep the mural, then we'll look at funding sources for how that could happen. But otherwise it will just go away. It will have been an effort on the part of doing community engagement, and that in itself is successful. So there's opportunities to the street layout at this intersection, not only to augment pedestrian and bike safety, but also to allow for better usage of the public space. Because remember, there's also the park right there, Memorial Park is right there. So by generating these types of activities, and we'll have probably 2 more, we'll be able to see how the community might want to use the space. So this is what the intersection looks like. This is north. This is the way I usually come into the neighborhood, is through West Vine Street. And this is at the top of the hill. So as you notice, there's a little island right there that is not there right now. But that will be an art space, not a physical barrier. So it's not, we're not creating another triangle there, it's just, it's an art space. And basically what this does is it narrows the lane so that people can see visually how they're coming into the intersection, and also how the traffic flow works, because typically people come down Strawberry and continue on Strawberry, come out West Vine Street and then go on to Mulberry or Vine. So there's lots of options for visual art in these spaces, and we'll go through some options here. So we want to encourage community participation. So tonight we're doing this interactive session. I have the maps out. You can draw, you can scribble, you can take back information and send it back to either Jake or myself, or to Arlene or Peter. And then on Saturday, we're also going to probably do another session similar to this on the 17th. So also in the evening, and also a chance for people to come and give their feedback. And then on Saturday, June 26th, we'll have be up at the St. Joseph's School where the fence is right there, so that we can put up design ideas along the fence line so that people can see what ideas have been generated, and then they can vote. It'll be a real simple voting process. It'll be green if you like it, yellow if you think it's okay, and red if you do not want that design. And so people can post their own opinions up there. And we'll also have space for people to draw also other ideas if they haven't otherwise been engaged at the meetings. And we can use the Memorial Park also for sketching and ideas and posting things as well. And we will continue to do social media postings on the SOE website and also through Lancaster Public Art and on Facebook. So hopefully if you have comments about those, or if you don't see enough information, let us know. We'd like to promote it as best we can. This is kind of what I envisioned for basically at the 26th at St. Joe's School, to be able to post designs that come out of the community. We're also going to be meeting with Boys and Girls Club and the bicyclist organizations in the area as well to generate some ideas. So there's many opportunities. So what to think about? Simple designs that won't distract drivers, because with the map you can see that it's along the sides of the intersection, and so we're not going to put anything right in the middle of the intersection. We're looking for images that can be viewed from all angles. Of course, that depends on which way you're coming into the intersection. Color combinations that are quote-unquote calming, so maybe not fire engine red, but maybe, but that doesn't mean that you can't use red. I mean, it just means that you probably don't want to make the whole design so bright. Think about flowers, fruits, vegetables, herbs, plants, images from the neighborhood, cultural symbols, as Jim said, also historic symbols, and inspirational words or ideas. That would be helpful. And I'm going to pass out a handout that has some more on that list. So this is a sample of what this kind of intersection could look like. This one was done in Kansas City. And so it was an intersection that was just really dangerous from the standpoint of people just rushing into it and then not necessarily stopping. And the designs were intended to sort of provide visual interest, but not to be so obvious that a car driving through there wouldn't be able to see. The car would be just able to see the colors and not necessarily get distracted by the shapes. And then if you notice along here, there's planters, and then there's delineators on this one, and there are rocks over here. Those are a little bit more physical barriers than I think we had in mind for the intersection, but we are considering the delineators, the posts that you see in traffic lanes on the highway or in the neighborhood. So again, just more of that design. You can see these big rocks that they put there. This was a permanent installation. This is not a temporary installation. Another thing would be to simplify the design. This was done in Hawaii, and the focus, it was done by a school of design, and the idea was that it would be very simplified shapes and calming colors, and that it just be repeated on all parts of the intersection. But we have the option of doing the same pattern in every section or a different pattern in each section. That's up to the community. Here's another different sample of how to use some of the artwork. We are not allowed to paint in crosswalks. So the spaces that we're using are all away from the crosswalk. That's, I guess, according to Pennsylvania laws and Carlson.
Yeah, PennDOT won't allow us to paint inside the crosswalks. Go on.
Okay. This one was done in New York. That one's very busy, but again, it's an area that really wasn't utilized for traffic, and so it became more of a pedestrian crosswalk area. Here's another view. Yeah. Again, this one uses a lot of geometric shapes, which is very popular from seeing it from all angles. And this I thought was kind of interesting because it looks like it's a pond. So what to avoid? Distracting patterns or complex images, too many colors. I think most of the projects that I looked at that Bloomberg had done in the past, people stick to about 5 colors, is what I've noticed, but and then that just makes it easier for application. But we can talk about that. You have to avoid designs and crosswalks and design throughout the intersection, so we can't have something right in the middle. Obviously too busy. That's a design in the middle of the intersection. Geometric shapes, but again, the pattern went into the sidewalk, went into the crosswalks. Okay, and the proposed schedule is, so on Monday we have a project team meeting with the representatives from the neighborhood that are the sort of steering committee for Lancaster Public Art. And then during this month, we're going to engage the community with many participatory projects. From June 30th in the period between June 30th and July 4th, we'll probably present the concept design to the project team based on the findings that we get from the community. And the final mural design will be posted, and then there'll be a public comment period through Engage Lancaster. And then we prepare the installation plan, and then September 11th, provided it doesn't rain, the project will be installed. That's it. And there's some contacts.
So, Jim was gonna give a little historical context of the neighborhood to us, but did you have some other questions?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Do you know how many square feet he's gonna
It's
give?
marked on the maps. There, each area is marked differently, so each area is a different square footage. The total amount is about 4,000, it's like 3,900. It's a bigger
Yeah,
space than you think. Go ahead.
Vern, would you mind putting up the slide toward the beginning that had the map of the intersection? Thanks, Peter. I'm just here to suggest that history is one aspect that you all might think about in terms of the content of the painting.
It's off the bottom right.
And,
She's asking where St. Joseph Street is.
oh, okay.
It's right here. It's right here, and then goes to the churches down over here.
Okay, there's 5 things I want to quickly say about this intersection historically. Wow, good we got here when we did. I'll go further. But the first thing is that this intersection has been here for over 250 years. None of the buildings that are there today are the ones that were there then, but the intersection at that time was just 3-way. It had Vine Street coming up from Water Street, then it had an alley along Strawberry. It was only about 14 feet wide. It was used for driving livestock off Cabbage Hill and into the markets. So it was a 3-way intersection. West Vine got extended in the late 1800s to this area, giving another point to the intersection. And Mulberry got extended about 1860s from where it was over 9th Street to here to make this 5-corner. So this particular group of 5 streets here has been here about 150 years. Probably what I think is the most interesting historical thing at this intersection is right where, let's see, probably about where this painting space here is. There was an old log cabin that was owned and lived in by Dinah McIntyre, who was an ex-slave, African-American slave, who lived in this cabin, went into town every day to the square, and was a fortune teller in one of the hotels down there. And she lived to be 113, reportedly, and died in this cabin in 1819. So she was born in 1706. There's a lot of lore about her. She was fairly famous in Lancaster.
Wasn't it called Dynasty at one time?
This whole, basically from here over, is called Dinah's Hill, yes. It's the highest point on the northern part of Cabbage Hill. And it had that name because of her living there. Okay, on this corner, let's see here, let me get it straight. This is where the school is, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. This site, as early as 1850, had a school on it. And it's actually 3 buildings at the time, and it was one of the earliest public schools in Lancaster was set up on this site right here. There's 3 buildings, 1-story buildings, basically a room in the front and a room in the back. There were 6 rooms for school there. And it served this area until 1892, when they Cabbage Hill was blossoming at that time, and a lot more kids were around. They tore those 3 down and built the building that's there now in 1892. That ran as a public school in Lancaster until 1939, until St. Joe's Church bought it and made it their church, their school. And then Catholic Charities now has a day treatment center in there. So that's been there a long time too. And the building's been there since 1892, but it was schools for another 40 years before that. Right here, early 1800s, it was a blacksmith shop, and then mid-1800s, it became a saloon. And the saloon became a hotel.
Is that Strawberry Hill Restaurant?
That's where Strawberry Hill Restaurant was, right. The building's still there. And there was a saloon there in 1865, in 1876, because of the 100-year anniversary of the country, it became the Centennial Hotel. And that was there for quite a long time. In 1892, they built the current building, and those houses that are on either side of it. It's kind of a nice brick Victorian structure right there. And then it served as various businesses. One of them was O.B. Miller's Steakhouse in the 1940s to 80s, I think. And then Strawberry Hill Restaurant in 1980, I think it closed in 2012. And let's see, the last thing I wanted to say was, this street is very steep. They show it on the map this way, it's really a drop off down here. I think it's a 12% grade. And the bottom is Water Street crossing it. But this was a famous sledding spot in Lancaster. Very dangerous sledding spot. There's stories of sleds going down or a train coming across, going underneath the train and that kind of stuff. But they used to draw hundreds of sledders here when the road was nice and slick. And thousands of spectators would line this. And there'd be all kinds of injuries and accidents, and a lot in the newspaper. So that's another interesting feature that, you know, the top of this is where they would leave, this intersection, to go down the hill. Get your sled and run down there and jump on. So that's some of the interesting history that's there. I don't know if any of this fits into the plans or how you can design it into a structure. It seems like you want some really basic things. Some of these history things might be a little more intricate. I don't know, but it's a possibility. So I just want to throw that out there as something to think about. Okay.
Thanks, Jim.